Today on the Failing Up podcast, we have Gaurav from TCS. He discusses his personal background and his story of immigrating to the U.S. and building a successful career in real estate. Let's jump in.
Welcome back to another episode of the Failing Up podcast, humble lessons in life and business. I'm here today. We are in Austin, Texas, right? None of us here are from Austin, so we just really like this studio.
Yeah, it's great.
Now we're in town for Keller Williams Mega Camp 2023. Here with my co-host Bethany Vooys. Bethany.
That's
So
me.
good with names.
That's
Not only
me.
can I not remember.
We have known each other today. That's
Long
it.
time.
Yep.
We just met.
We just met today.
Here with my co-host Bethany Vooys and Phil Kingsley. Guys, thank you for joining us again.
Glad to be here.
Excited to be here.
Much better than the first time we tried doing podcasts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Although that podcast, if you ever go back and listen to it, the content's really great.
It is good.
Yeah. Just didn't love the name. So we're going to have to figure out a way to like splice it out and get the content out.
Sure, we could do that.
And also our guest speaker, Mr. Gaurav, how are you?
I'm doing great.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me here.
All the way from Philly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I was watching, I've been talking to my son. We went and toured Fenway. My oldest was at a medical conference north of Boston. And so Jagger and I didn't really have anything to do because Dawson was at this college all day. And so we went and toured Fenway. They didn't have anybody playing, but it was really cool to tour the stadium. And so now we've decided, I told him, I was like, let's do one of those like father-son tour the country and see if we can get every stadium in. And he was like, do my brothers have to come? I was like, and so the other day I was like, hey, remember we're supposed to do that? And he was like, how many more years before my brothers are out of high school and out of the house?
And he wants to go
4, and he was like,
solo.
we'll wait 4 years.
We had a couple in between.
I love it.
None of the big ones.
I'm
Yeah.
like, come on, man. Like, it'd be fun. He's like, nah, well,
He
let's
wants
just
to go
wait.
solo.
That's
one-on-one. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah,
That
that's
will be-
awesome.
You're doing something right.
That will
That's
be a
right.
fun trip. Yeah, I know, man. That kid's amazing. So, Rob, take a minute to introduce yourself. Let our listeners know who you are and what makes you so amazing.
What makes me amazing is that when I came to this country in 1997, my dad was the richest guy in the country of India. We came here with about $1.8 billion. I'm just kidding.
Like, wow.
I was like,
I did not know that.
I was like, oh man, I didn't know.
That's not how my life started. That's what everybody thinks my life
Yeah.
started as. My dad was the president of some country, and I came in. No, we came here in 97. you made you laugh, didn't you?
Yeah, I like it.
I like it.
I like it.
We immigrated to the U.S. in 1997. My parents came in with a total life savings of about $5,000.
Wow.
I started as a computer science engineer, graduated, got married to my high school sweetheart, and 9/11 happened. And I lost my first job and I had to figure out how I'm going to stay legal in this country. I picked up a job in a place as a network administrator, happened to be a real estate company. And that's where I picked up real estate, and I learned as I grew from there, and my real estate journey began. And now I'm in Philadelphia, focused purely on every aspect of residential real estate, and loving my life.
Man, I love it. You're so humble. You run like one of the top 10 teams at Keller Williams, maybe one of the top 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Credit to the team. We were the 9th largest team in Keller Williams in the country last year. We were the 4th largest team in the state of Pennsylvania. But I'm sure, everybody was doing great in the last 2 years.
Right.
The next few years are going to define, how we actually continue to build up. But I'm very confident our team is awesome. We run a very decent sized property management company as well. We manage about 4,500 plus units. And we are very focused on condo specialization, rent Philly. We have exclusive representation of about 8,000 apartments in the city of Philadelphia. So we're spread pretty well diversified in our businesses at this point. But I started as one agent with about 5 other team members. So we were 6 people when we started about 2010.
Yeah. And I love how just authentic you are, right? You and I didn't really know each other real well. And then we kind of met and it was like, yeah, right. Like, good guy, right? And got along and grateful to be your first kind of out-of-state expansion partner, right?
I appreciate that so much. I can't even express how much you believing in us gave us the push and the confidence to move forward. It always takes the first one. You always have a cool concept,
Yeah.
and you feel you can take over the world by that cool concept, but nothing happens till you implement it. And then implementing it with the with the right person, right partner, helping you guide through the process. Because anytime you think you have a process, you really don't.
No.
Because
No.
you start implementing it, you learn that.
Seems so simple on paper, right?
Correct. And then you're pitching it to saying, hey, I have figured this out.
Yeah.
And this is what you would need, and I can provide a solution. And then you start doing it. It's like, I don't really have figured out the whole thing.
Yeah.
I figure maybe a little bit more than
Isn't
the
it
other.
funny? Some of the little things that can derail you, right? We've got, between probably 7 or 8 different companies that we've launched in the last 12 months. And it's everything is cool when you're setting up the store and you're organizing, this is how it's going to go. As soon as you turn on the open sign, right, and you open the door for business, all bets are off, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you really figure out what's going to break and what works. Because you're right, it's a cool concept. Then when you go out to implement and execute, and it never ends up looking quite like what you think it's going to look like, right?
Much better, actually.
I was going to say, it usually morphs into something better. I was having that conversation with one of our other hosts, Dusty Oglesby, as we've launched Purpose Coaching and Distinction, and said, like, give it 6 months. It won't look like what we thought it's going to look like, but it'll actually be cooler because it ultimately ends up being whatever your customer, your consumer wants it to be. And you fail your way forward with it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So in the interest of the podcast, Failing Up, when you think of failure, what does failure mean to you?
I'm sure it's defined very different for different people. You go with what you personally believe in. Failing, I love that podcast name, Failing Up. Is awesome. I loved it.
Much better than the original one that we had to scrap.
Yeah, we didn't want our children knowing that one.
Yeah, that one was when I had to explain what was the name of it, how I effed this up. But it was supposed to be how I failed this up.
Okay.
But I found, like, every time I had to stop and explain what the F meant, like, probably not appropriate.
That's not appropriate.
So we backed up and punted, and we failed at the first stage.
My daughter's looking forward to listening to this more and more. So.
That's right.
She can listen to this one.
Yeah,
Good wholesome.
she can go search this one on the podcast app. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
To me, everybody fails in life. Failing is more of a process. Failure is a mindset. If you don't work to continue getting better, and if you don't try to give your 100%, I think that's failure. We all will fail in a process in the business, and learning from it, allowing you to get better at it, trying to create the best opportunity for you and for others around it, the purpose that we define for ourselves to build in our lives. If you're not achieving or working towards achieving that, then it turns out to be a failure. So I think that it's a big mindset conversation. When you're in a boxing ring and you get knocked down, you fail in your pattern of defense and offense, but you have to get up, and only you at that moment can push yourself to get up. And if you don't get up, then it's to me it's a failure at that part. But failing up is an awesome conversation to say, what is the reason why you have to stand up again? Yeah. And I think in our businesses, in our lives, in our relationships, every single thing can be defined at that moment of what is deep down inside in your mindset and your heart to help you get up again.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. We can talk about failure so often that it becomes, we've said we have these catchy T-shirts and we have these bumper sticker sayings. But when you're on the mattress, right, and when that pain is real, right? The hurt and the embarrassment sometimes, and the people around you that you've let down through doing it, doesn't seem real cute at that moment, right? And I love what you say. Failure is a mindset, because I think I can be guilty of having to just really battle that, right? It was not something that was taught to me from an age that, like, I can control that in my head. And so I love how you put that, right? That failure is a mindset. And
failing is a journey. You'll have some setbacks and disappointments during the course, but it's the end of a journey. Once you take the mindset that I'm going to give up, and I'm not going to get better at this again or anymore, I think that mindset is a permanent. And it's just very clearly defined in my mind that it is just part of the process. I will not be able to grow my business year after year. We're talking about numbers. I'm confident in a year or 2 years, there will be a time when we'll not grow or reduce. But how do I take it from there and move forward is going to define me different than the other teams for the long run.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I think about that you can almost identify it a little bit. I find that there comes like this spark of anger when I get close to wanting to throw in the towel, where I'm almost just like, right? Like I'm done with it, right? You get that. And I've tried to learn to recognize that as like, okay, time out, right? You're getting emotional and do you really want to throw in the towel on this? And I think, we talk about like with our children, how do you teach them that? Like that's for me as a parent, I go like, man, how do you teach that moment right there, right? How do you teach them like, this is an acceptable emotion to feel. You don't have to quit, right? Like there's another option, right?
And if you ask most of the people in life, what is their biggest why? Family is usually going to be part of it.
Sure.
And that means the kids are going to be somewhere involved if you have kids. And if you don't, you will realize that feeling that comes up. Kids can't be taught that model. They'll experience it by you living it. So when they see you, I'll give an example. I decided I'm going to run a half marathon by the end of this year. And I started running. I've never ran in my life.
Oh, wow.
So I started running and I've been building it up. So I ran the 8 mile this last weekend. And the only way I did it was because my daughter said, well, I'll come with you on a bicycle. And she's 10 years old. She drove 8 miles on a bicycle for the first time. And after 7 miles, I wanted to give up. I was choking. I didn't have enough water left. I couldn't breathe. And my daughter stopped and she put her hand out to give me a high five. She's like, Daddy, you can do it. I would have died, but not stopped.
Yeah.
And I think that defines, I could have failed, but failure was not an option.
Yeah.
Not in front of your daughter.
Not in front of my daughter.
Not when you got a big enough why.
That is correct. So I think we have to identify. And I looked at her. She was standing about 1,000 feet ahead of me and had her hand out. And I thought to myself, you can't. You just can't stop.
Yeah.
And it's only 1 more mile. You got to do it. I think we have to all identify deep down inside that, and we have to accept. And I did stop and I said, darling, I have no energy left. She's like, well, we can walk for a few minutes and we can run again. And I did that.
There you go.
And, so that motivation has to be sometimes from an external source. And, that whole combination, we have to constantly look in our lives and say, what combination works best for me to continue pushing forward? Otherwise, living solo or being in a room by yourself, it's challenging at times. So I think it's our families learn from what we do from our actions, and it's very hard to teach them.
Yeah, I love Ed Milet's, right? The power of one more, but it's you hear it like in the Navy SEALs, right? Like you can quit, you just can't quit today. You're gonna quit, you got to quit tomorrow, right? And it's like I know from running, right? Sometimes it's like I don't know if I can run, but I can get to that tree. Right. I don't know if I can keep going, but I can get to that stop sign. Right. And it's just that incremental push of going forward. And I just think it's so interesting of trying to give your, you talk about your children or even your team members or coworkers safe space to fail. And, you tell a story about me and like, I knew we were going to screw that up, but a lot of times you don't. And I think when you're under immense pressure and stress as a leader, you can not handle that failure appropriately, right? Because of the stress and the frustration and wanting to like get it right and just everything moving so fast. How do you see that show up? You're leading teams, you're leading people. Somebody makes a mistake. You got a lot going on. You ever just lost it, right? You ever just like fly off the handle and like everybody's fired, right? Internally you do, right? And then you go, okay, how do I really want to handle it? But how do you handle that with people around you?
I always remind myself why I'm doing it. So the way I signed up for this job, I didn't have to. I could just be constantly continuing doing what I was doing, and I decided I'm going to take a position of leadership where others are relying on me. That means if there are 500 agents in the company, each one of them have an average of about 3 to 4 family members. There are 1,500 souls depending on me.
No pressure.
No pressure, right? So, and then the way
I
think
looked at it that way.
Yeah.
So
I'm really not going to sleep.
You got to step it up. Phil.
I do.
They all be fine. I change a course. I make a big mistake. I decide to not continue my journey again, or run away from this. They'll all be fine. They'll figure it out. But Christmas will not be the same this year. A holiday will not be the same this year. Their plan of buying a home or getting a new car will not be the same for at least a year or maybe longer. So, I love Disney. I'm like Disney is my happy place. And I think about...
I know we liked each other. I love Disney.
So I always think when I wanted to go to Disney, I've been to Disney with the least amount of money, and I've been to Disney as the taking my daughter for doing every single thing that I could find to do. So that the experience was so much different. So then I feel, don't I owe to all my team members and people around me to have their kids enjoy the same experience? So I want to create the opportunities and continue pushing myself that if I did this, I can have my team members' kids go stay in a Disney resort, not in a other hotel in Orlando. And I think that gives me immense pleasure and motivation to continue going, because what I can do for my daughter, and I work very hard for that, I want to work the similar passion for everybody else's kids as well.
Isn't that amazing that you've put that thought to that level, right? It's what makes you a great leader. Because I think so many people can get up and just go through the motions and think about what's in it for me and what can I get financially. But a true leader, right, takes the responsibility of those lives that they're responsible for. How old are your children?
I have one daughter, 10 years old.
Okay. All right. So you're almost to the age that you're going to shift, and they're going to start liking Universal Studios better than Disney. And it's heartbreaking. Like my kids absolutely hate that I make them go ride. It's a small
world.
I believe in another parallel universe that It's a Small World is you ride that, and it's a shift in the dimensional time frame of the world.
It sure feels like it when you're on the ride.
That's right. You go through that and you come out and you're in a different dimension. I don't know where we're going with that. No, but like my kids now, all they want to do is go ride the roller coasters, and they love Universal. And I'm like, oh man, right? Like, don't we just want to hop over for a day or two?
It's an experience. Like, whatever works for them, you got to be able to give them that joy.
Yeah.
And I think it does come back to mindset though, right? Because I would say we've done something similar. It was awesome both times, right? Like either way, it was amazing. And I think your perspective for giving it to others is huge. It does all just come back to mindset though, right? You choose to perceive failure a certain way, reprogramming what failure means to you. It's kind of like happiness. It's a choice.
It's a choice. It's definitely a choice that you have to make and decide if I'm going to continue or not continue.
Or why, right?
And the why has to come from within to be able to push you for that. So I think it doesn't matter if you're an individual person, as an agent, as a team leader, a large team, large business, or a small business. At the end of the day, it's you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So unless you identify that, it's going to be a challenge trying to find joy in outside resources. It has to come from within.
I had a coaching client the other day that had asked me, like, okay, outside of all of this, how do you cope with the stress? Right? How do you cope with the uncertainty and the frustration of the failures, right? And letting that happen. And we had a similar conversation around you have to recognize that like who you are and what journey you're on is independent of your identity as a leader, right? And we can fall into that pretty deep, I think, especially in this industry, right? What does Joseph call it? Celebrities?
Celebrities.
KW celebrities.
First time I heard that was in the parking garage.
And so in our business, right, you can really be built up, and your ego and your identity can start to form around it. And I was just reminding him that, like, look, this is all a get to, not a have to, right? Like, we get to do this as a part of it. We choose this portion of it, right? And our mindset around it. And so all that stress, and if somebody, like, not the end of the world, who you are as a human, who you are as a husband, who you are as a father, like those are the glass walls, right?
I think it's easy to
no, please. I think
it's easy to fathom that concept if you realize we all know on a daily basis when we go to work or we are doing a task or spending time with family, are we doing it the right way that we intend to? Or there's a deep down gut feeling that I'm cheating the system. Yeah. When I go to work, I'm telling my wife and daughter and my family that I'm going to stay away from you because daddy has to go and do certain things. And this is a good thing I'm doing because it's beneficial for the family. And then I go and don't make purposeful effort to make the day best. Yeah. I'm cheating my family.
Yeah.
I'm cheating my daughter out of daddy's time because of my selfishness and not providing the best opportunity that I could. And that feeling is the guilt feeling.
Yeah.
So if you go to work and say, listen, I did the best I could, and then it did not work out because I failed, and then I'm going to work harder to fix it because failure is not an option, I think that mindset makes it easier to go through those challenges.
Yeah, we talk about that. I've used that exact scenario a lot of times with newer agents to go like, when you look at it as this is time I could be doing life with my family. And so if I'm going to take that time away from them, I'm going to be intentional with it. I just get very tactical with it and put it on a calendar, right? And so my success of a day is, did I follow my calendar or not, right? So I know that I'm doing the things that are worth me taking time away from them, right? Otherwise, I've always said, if you allow the distractions or the gotta minutes to mess up your calendar, I have to go home at night and on the weekends when I'm supposed to be in the backyard throwing baseball, or I'm supposed to be cooking cookies with them or something, and I'm working on a spreadsheet, and I go like, if you back up, that's because somewhere in the course of my day, I allowed someone to derail me from what I was supposed to be focused on, which is why I think sometimes, we can come off, I can kind of come off as a jerk sometimes to people if I say no, or if I'm on task, because I look at it as I'm robbing time in the future from someone that's important to me if I say yes to this, right? And I think it's a really tough balance as you get more and more people around you. All right, in the interest of time, I want to wrap up with one of my favorite questions. Think in the future, right? You're at the end of your life, you're looking back. Today, what do you anticipate might be your biggest regret?
Didn't see that one coming.
No, I did.
We like to bring it up at the end, So
I'm sure, if I have a knee-jerk reaction, I'll probably say if I didn't spend enough time with my family. But the fact is, I identified that 4 years ago. Right during COVID, I realized that I did not want to live with that regret. So I started spending a lot more time with my family. I'm very happy with the amount of time I'm spending purposefully and being in the moment with my family. So my regret in life would probably be the reason why I'm leading this journey is I have a mission in mind. I want to leave a legacy. I'm an immigrant to the country. I speak with an accent, but I don't think with an accent. It's a big difference in people, and it's not, I didn't create it. I read it somewhere else, and I relate to it very much. That sometimes the perception is different. So there are a lot of people like myself who are trying to build a lifetime journey for themselves or leaving a legacy. So how can I be a model for them? They can look up to me and say, in some ways, if this guy with an Indian accent can do it, so can I. And I think that will leave future generations to make a difference. So I don't want to, my biggest regret will be if I did not give in my 100% to leave a good legacy and create those opportunities for people around me and their families. And I don't want to, I'm working very hard not to have that regret later on.
Man, I think you're doing a fantastic job with it. I think the world of you. Thanks for sharing some time with us today, brother.
Awesome.
I appreciate you very much, guys.
Thanks, man.
See you, brother.